Greetings, fellow men, servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Mea culpa, I should say. I have been procrastinating for the last weeks. I wanted to get this video out a long time ago already. A lot of you will have heard about the recent escalations in Germany, obviously, but nevertheless, I want to give you my perspective on this in this video. So, first of all, very quickly, what has happened? The violent crime that was committed in the Eastern German city in Chemnitz, Saxony, is in and of itself not very special. Things like that happen all the time since 2015 in Germany, but people in Eastern Germany do not react the same way to these crimes as people do in Western Germany. Of course, always hashtag not all, these are just mentalities, this is painting with a broad brush. But in essence, it is the way it is. So in the end of August, several illegal migrants killed a German and stabbed several Germans actually in Chemnitz. It was clear very soon that they did not act in self-defense and that the level of brutality that they used in this crime is something that we're not really used to in Germany. So as I said, when something like this happens in Western Germany, people don't really talk about it. The family and the friends of the victims do not talk about it, the media doesn't report about it, and there is no public mourning or no demonstrations or protests following that. But the people in Saxony are a little bit different here. They're apparently not willing to just accept this level of brutality and violence on their streets, brought there by people who should legally not even have the right to be in Germany. And this is also the reason why I named this video The Two Germanies, because Western Germany and Eastern Germany is very different. But the difference is not really the fact that you're an Eastern German or a Western German. It has something to do with majority and minority groups. So I am a Bavarian. I grew up in Western Germany, of course, but my thinking, and a lot of people here in Bavaria also, our way of thinking fits in much more with the majority group in Eastern Germany, but here in the West we are a minority group. And that means that we live in a social environment where we have to shut up if we don't want to be ostracized or lose our jobs or just be harassed by Antifa every day. In Eastern Germany, however, you can say a little more, and maybe the other side has to be a little more careful. So our media and our elites are, even though Angela Merkel is from Eastern Germany, are still dominated by Western German thinking for the most part. They are very PC and very socialistic and left-leaning, of course. And at the moment, they're what you would call progressive left. That means open borders, and they believe in all this social justice nonsense. So if they see people, for example, who put down flowers and light candles and also take to the streets and show their indignation and also express their righteous anger when someone, maybe their neighbor, their friend, or just a fellow citizen from the same city, for God's sake, is brutally killed. They do not like this at all. The ideal that they have in the back of their heads of what a perfect subject, a perfect citizen should be like, is shut up, consume, go to work, pay their taxes, and not show any kind of solidarity with their fellow man. Despite of what they say about solidarity and showing courage when someone is victimized, no, they actually don't want that. We should only show solidarity with foreigners and not amongst ourselves. And this is the reason why they have to declare war on the people of Eastern Germany. So very soon after the mourning and after the demonstrations, a video appeared. It was an Antifa channel or an Antifa account that posted a very short video where you see two people confronting a group of protesters, and they were getting in each other's faces, they were yelling a bit, and then these protesters gave chase for maybe 3 seconds, for like 5 meters, and then they turned around again. And they labeled this video a manhunt, or that people are hunted through the streets of Chemnitz. So the narrative was then that everyone who looks foreign is chased through the streets by violent criminal right-wingers. Now, some of the people who were protesting in Chemnitz looked a bit like football hooligans, the stereotypical hooligan with tattoos and with kind of a rough exterior. However, if 800 of those martial arts trained aggressive hooligans is chasing foreigners through the street with intent to seek and destroy, shouldn't there be any victims? Shouldn't there be police records or hospital records? Or, to be a little more realistic, hundreds of dead foreigners? Now, I didn't see any of those things. And not only me, but the people who were actually there and the police and the governor of the state of Saxony, they all agree that what is described by the media, and by the way, the Chancellor Angela Merkel and all the news channels, all the TV stations, all the newspapers, they were all using the same words as this Antifa account. They said there were scenes of hunting down foreigners and pogroms, and none of these things happened. It was a complete fabrication, a complete lie. Because the only victim I really heard about was that some woman complained that her phone was slapped out of her hand. Yeah, well, oh, come on, the end is near. The Fourth Reich is just around the corner. So all the official reports all speak the same language. The only violent crime that happened with respect to these events in Chemnitz was the stabbing of 3 Germans. One stabbing was fatal. And of course, during the clash of left-winged and right-wing protesters with the police present there, you have the usual injured people that you get there, but that had nothing to do with the scenes that the media were describing. Now, the media made it sound a little differently, however. So the message I kind of want to bring across here, when you take a couple of steps back, I don't want to bore you with all the details of what happened when. You can do your own research. The newspaper articles also in English are out there. But what I really want to say is that Germany entered a new cycle or a new rung in the ladder of escalation. So I said very often that right-wing people, patriotic people, conservative people, they warned our government back in 2015 and even before that, that if they bring in large numbers, like millions of people from very questionable cultural backgrounds and strange countries that are not ideal, to say the least, that crime will be a problem in Germany. And we were always told that this is just fear-mongering and lies. But now that reality has caught up with these ideologues, and we see every weekend, every week, every day, we see that we were right and that crime is increasing and it is a problem, they have to lie. They have to lie in an ever more obvious fashion. And the only thing they can do at this point is to demonize right-wingers. So that means the problem is not the killing of Germans. The problem is when you talk about the killing of Germans as if it was something extraordinary. Killings happen all the time, people die in traffic accidents, yada yada. You know the narrative very well. But the person who is complaining about it, the victims who want to tell their story, they are the real problem here. And this is at this point the only thing they can actually do. They called us fearmongers before, and now they just call us bigots for talking about events that actually happened, while they make up things that never happened, like in Chemnitz. They have to invent right-winged mobs right now. This is the point we have arrived at in Germany. So the thing that motivates our elites and politicians on top of that is that most of the migrants who commit these violent crimes are actually illegal migrants. And they're not just living here in the underground. No, they actually have committed crimes already. They were actually already in front of a court. They were not just charged with a crime, they were convicted of violent crimes prior to that. they already committed crimes abroad, like in Greece or somewhere else. Like this guy, for example, he already applied for asylum in Bulgaria, I think, and he committed substance-related crimes and violent crimes in Germany. So our courts have decided already that he has to go, but nothing happened. And that means that the authorities in Germany also have blood on their hands. If the German law had been actually enforced, that guy would not have been here anymore. And that is the actual scandal here. Not only in this case, but in many other cases. The people who commit these violent crimes, they should have been deported legally a long time ago. They are known to the authorities. They are not unknown people. The authorities know where they live, they know what they have done before that, but they still don't imprison them and they still don't deport them. It's the same thing that happened in Canada recently, where a Chinese-Canadian girl was killed by a migrant. That should never have been in Canada. And maybe in your countries it's similar, maybe you are some steps before that, maybe you have even gone beyond that already, like in the US, for example, with the primary elections coming up. I think you are already past this stage, but in other countries you might take this video or these events in Germany as a warning of what is about to come if you actually catch up with us in this cycle of elite or government escalation here against their own European citizens. So besides all that, I also want to talk about a very interesting side story in the aftermath. We have a kind of secret police force in Germany. It is called the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz, and it is actually a domestic security agency. It is something like a domestic secret service, and literally it means the Federal Office for the Protection of our Constitution, and it was founded by the Allies, by the victors of World War II, in order to spy on Western German people and to identify and combat groups or individuals that seek to undermine or to abolish our free Western style democracy here. Now, the boss of this government agency is, of course, then dealing with religious fundamentalism, with left and right-wing political extremism, and they should basically observe and, if necessary, also take steps against them. Now, of course, the dominant group is always tempted to use this security agency as a political weapon against political enemies. For example, if left-wing people dominate in Germany politically, they will use this organization in order to do surveillance or do hit jobs basically on right-wing people, and vice versa, the same thing. So at the moment, left-wing groups are really bullying this agency and using the media and public opinion in order to get a left-wing person installed at the top of this organization and to criminalize patriotic groups in Germany, and also the AfD as a patriotic party, of course. Now, the rationale behind that is that if it is known to the center, to honest taxpayers and citizens, to the good people of Germany, that a certain group is under surveillance by this secret police force, these honest, good centrist Germans who might be patriotic and otherwise vote for the AfD, they would refrain from having their name connected with the party, as an example right now, if they are under surveillance of the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz, of this secret security agency. And of course, it theoretically would work the other way around too, but at the moment, of course, we are dominated by left-wing progressive forces. So it just so happens that the head of that agency said after this Antifa video appeared that, oh, wait a second, Antifa is really not a reliable source, and of course they're left-winged and biased, so we should first check if this video is really legit. And this doesn't sound so out there, because everyone is talking about fake news and how how some trolls or foreign powers maybe even try to influence us by posting suggestive videos on social media. So I think it's reasonable to first check. Now the problem was that Chancellor Merkel had already adopted the false narrative that this Antifa video was pushing because it is useful for her. She wants open borders and more migration, so she wants actually to have news about right-wing mobs because then she can demonize the right. So the outcome was actually that this head of the Secret Service organization was actually let go, and he is moved now, or he got a new job at the Ministry for the Interior under Horst Seehofer. And it is actually remarkable that a German chancellor works towards replacing someone who is the head of a federal office. That is actually a very unusual affair. But it just goes to show that everyone who doesn't adopt the language or the narrative of Antifa at the moment in Germany is replaced by Angela Merkel herself. You know, she makes sure that you lose your job if you dare to question Antifa in Germany right now. So these left-wing groups and Antifa specifically have actually become something like Angela Merkel's personal militia group. They are working together very well. And now towards the end, there is a topic that is related to this secret police force, but that is also very dear to me actually. I want to talk about radicalization and extremism at the end of this video. Now there were several people during these hooligan protests in Chemnitz who walked right up to the TV cameras and raised their right hand in a way that is illegal in Germany. Now in many countries this is not illegal, but in Germany you can go to jail if you do this Roman salute. Now, a couple of these people actually didn't look like right-wingers, but more like left-wingers. And some of them, however, looked like hooligans, and they are provocateurs. And I'm not denying, of course, that there are some very dangerous groups or individuals in Germany that are very small in number. However, they are very extremely dangerous. They are right-wingers, extreme xenophobes. They do exist. They are not nearly as numerous or widespread as the media wants to make you believe, but they do exist. And I actually would also be afraid if I happened to walk across such a group at night in a quiet street, for example. I wouldn't feel very safe to be around them, to be quite honest. Here is the kicker, however, when it comes to these people. For a long time in Germany, we already know that these extremist right-wing groups in Germany have been infiltrated for a long time with this very secret police force, the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz. So that means this security agency has both informants and also undercover cops among the very leadership of these right-wing groups. Some of them might be agents, some of them might be police force, some of them might be legit neo-Nazis who just don't have a job and who want someone to pay their rent, and then they play the informer. And how do I know that? I do not take that from some conspiracy theory blog. No, this was actually coming to light many years ago when an attempt to ban the nationalist party NPD was made. And in the German constitution or in our law, in our system, there is a way to ban parties. A court has to decide that the goal of this party is to overthrow our free democratic Western style system here. This is the same thing that the Bundesamt für Verfassungsschutz is actually looking out for. People who try to overthrow our political order. And in that case, if they find that out, this party could actually be banned. And several attempts were made, but during the trials to ban this party, it actually came out that a large part of these party members are actually working for the German state. Yeah, it is not a small number. And so the court couldn't really differentiate anymore what illegal actions or questionable statements were actually done by legit party members or who were just paid provocateurs from the German state. And in this case, it was impossible to ban that party, even though the judges, of course, wanted to ban this party as a extreme racist or an extreme right-wing militant party. So until this day, this party is not banned. You can still vote for them. And all because our state has infiltrated them to a point where you cannot really make them liable for their bad actions anymore, because you don't know what was done by a legit party member or by a special agent of the German state. And in the descriptions below, I have a link to a very far left newspaper called Taz, Tageszeitung. And they themselves describe all that. So if you don't want to take it from me, take it from the leftists themselves. This is common knowledge in Germany. This is in no way controversial. It is actually the reason why the NPD is still around. So we know that right-wing groups, these hooligan, neo-Nazi kind of groups, they are full of government agents and informers. So of course I don't have proof for that. This is of course not something I claim, it's just a speculation. But is it so far out there? Is it so inconceivable that at a situation right now where Angela Merkel needs an enemy, where she needs to stop people from talking about migrant crime and talk more about evil right-wingers, that when there is such a protest and the government media has their TV cameras pointed at the brown mob, that one or two or a handful of guys march right in front of these cameras and raise their right hand? Is it so inconceivable that these people are actually working for the German Secret Service? I think it is absolutely possible. I don't know these people. I have no idea if this is true. But in a manner of speaking, these lunatics raising their right hand for the Roman salute at this time, at this place, was just too convenient for Angela Merkel. I am very suspicious that there is foul play here. Now, what is also interesting to know is, I said before, showing the Roman salute in public in Germany is illegal, can get you jailed, actually. Well, that is not completely true. For an ordinary German citizen, that is true. However, there is a select group of special people who can totally legally show the Roman salute in public and not be charged with a crime. And that is the group of the secret police. When they are undercover infiltrating a right-wing group, it is allowed to them to show these kinds of behaviors that would normally end you up in jail, but they are allowed to do it. So this is another reason why I have the strong suspicion that something like this was going on here. So in other words, the German state has its own little police unit that can walk around and show Roman salutes all the time, and the media is of course there to film that, and then they say, haha, see, Germany is full of Nazis still. How convenient. And just after these Roman salutes happened in Chemnitz, these were shown in public, the camera of the state media captured everything, and soon afterwards the first articles were already being published trying to link the AfD with these hooligans and trying to show that there was any connection between them, which is of course nonsense, because all the protests that were organized by Pegida and the AfD had nothing to do with these provocateurs and these low IQ lunatics. And I would say some of these hooligan kind of people, they would show up whenever the cops come out. Because at these events, when Antifa and patriots or right-wingers or whatever you want to call them, when they clash in the streets, there are always people who, it's kind of their hobby to fight against the police. So it doesn't matter if it's a G20 summit or if it's a right-wing protest. They are always out there trying to get into a fight with the cops. It's kind of an extreme sport for them. So I wouldn't even be surprised if you find some of those people both at left-winged and at right-winged political demonstrations or protests, if there is a chance that they can have their fight with the police. They're just addicted to violence, and this is an extreme sport to them, it appears to me. So, to sum up, the only violent crime that happened in Chemnitz around the end of August during these events was the brutal stabbing of 3 Germans. One of them was lethal, and the events that followed would maybe not be characteristic of a Western German town. However, in Eastern Germany, they are more suspicious when it comes to a totalitarian state with tightly controlled mass media putting out narratives that are obviously in complete contradiction to eyewitness reports and observable reality. The good people of Chemnitz just won't have it. And when you look at who was actually on the streets during these days, you see these are very normal people. These are not just hooligans, there were like 800 of them, but in the other events, these were normal, honest Germans. And they see what's happening in Western Germany, they see what happens in France and the UK, and they just don't want that. And a typical Western German narrative is, and I hear that all the time, also at the workplace, by the way, my colleagues are just always talking about the headlines of yesterday's news, and they just adopt these headlines verbatim. One of them is that, oh, these people in Eastern Germany are so xenophobic and so stupid. They don't even have any migrants there, but they are the ones who complain about migrant crime the most. So if they don't have any migrants, how can they hunt foreigners through the streets of Chemnitz then, huh? Did you maybe think about that? And I looked it up, by the way. Chemnitz has a population of roughly 250,000 people. Among that are 8% foreigners. That means 20,000 foreigners. Is that nothing? I don't think that's nothing. Think about it. 800 violent hooligans running through Chemnitz that has 20,000 foreigners, and you're telling me they wouldn't find someone to beat up? I don't think so. Wouldn't it be much more realistic that maybe these hooligans, who are very much capable of beating people up, and there were plenty of foreigners in Chemnitz that they could have beat up, now could it maybe be that they didn't try to beat up anyone, that they were just yelling some slogans and they were being angry and all, but they didn't actually hunt anyone and they didn't actually try to harm anyone? If they had tried to harm anyone, they would have been able to hurt a lot of people. But I think critical thinking skills are not that well pronounced among these liberals. So another message that is really important to fellow patriots or conservative people in Germany is that we must make an effort to stay peaceful at all costs. Even if we don't do anything violent, the media and the elites, the state, they actually just make up violent crimes that they want to blame on right-wing groups then. Now, I think it is absolutely important that we stay peaceful and that any form of protest or anything we do should be within our legal democratic framework and maybe go more into the direction of creative protest, civil disobedience, but stay peaceful at all cost. So I think I ranted on quite enough for now. I actually just came back from the voting booth. Today is an election, a state election in Bavaria, and of course I voted for the AfD, and I'm very excited about the news this evening. Maybe Bavaria will be ruled by the CSU and the Green Party very soon. Let's see about that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Servus, Kameraden.